Chapter 1. The Summer Holidays. 9:10 a.m. Friday, the 17th of July 1970. Kelvin Academy for Girls, Kelvinside, Glasgow. It's the last day before the summer holidays. A knock on my Form 5A classroom door. The head girl peeps in. "Please, Miss Maguire." Mr. McLaughlin's asking, "Can you take Form 5B too?" I nod. Deirdre files in with her classmates. Other girls may have fallen victim to the current fashion for messiness, but flower power has not taken root here in Kelvin Academy. The girls' faces shine, their hair is neat. I'm proud of 5A and 5B, all ready to burst into a vibrant classless society where a coal miner's daughter can get her degree just as easily as a debutante, and as easily as any man. I hope they'll enjoy their summer break as much as I'm going to enjoy mine. First, though, there's the teaching appointments fair this afternoon. I've promised to take the girls along to Kelvin Hall, where the foreign boarding schools are recruiting for their top-draw teaching appointments. It will be nice for the girls to get an idea of the glamorous teaching jobs available abroad. Glasgow Trained is still the favoured choice of all the best boarding schools, despite the stupid nonsense spouted about comprehensive education. Not, of course, that a good school pays any attention to silly ideas like that. The one-size-fits-all educational system is just another 70s fashion, a fad. Like micro-mini skirts and pop art, it will come and go. I met a very charming man at the teaching fair, Yasin Yilmaz. Extremely good-looking too. Brian would have been jealous, I hope. Professor Yilmaz is the headmaster of the Nautical High School in Istanbul. They need an English Studies department head. He insists I'm perfect for the job. Flattering, but not my cup of tea. I like Glasgow just fine. Bad enough that Brian is away so much. Brian's a geologist. There's not a lot of live-in-your-hometown jobs for geologists. 11 years ago, when we graduated, he got a job with Geophysical Services International. So he's at sea most of the year, and his ship is near Singapore or Bali when they get shore leave. But he has 6 weeks home leave twice a year. We have a grand time then. Luckily, it's only a short bus ride from Kelvin Hall to Mary Lee, and pretty soon I'm strolling home from the bus stop. I can see Morag's wee red Mini sitting at the curb. Great, she'll be baking already, if I know our Morag. Catriona yields up her kitchen with a smile whenever Morag appears on our doorstep, for there's no one else can cook like Morag, who is convinced Cat doesn't eat enough and Neil needs feeding up. There's some mothers would bridle at that, but not our Cat. It's true enough that when her man was taken so suddenly in that awful disaster at the mine, Cat was beside herself with grief, glad of any helping hand, and tearfully grateful that I was there for her, but that was more than 2 years ago. Cat is eating fine now. She'll have our tea ready to put on the table when I get in, and she doesn't need Morag to do the baking for her, not anymore. But only a nutter would say no to Morag's brandy snaps. And if the price of Morag's cooking is that she fusses over her nephew more than any 10-year-old much likes, not even Neil is daft enough to complain about that. He is very thin, but it's because he takes after his dad. Ian was dark and quiet, tall and thin, a complete contrast to Cat, who is small and plump, like all the Maguires, with fine milk-white skin and huge eyes. It was something to see us in our teens, the 4 Maguire girls giving exhibition Irish dance in our plain green tunics that Mum had so carefully matched to the exact shade of our eyes, our upper bodies stock still, our auburn curls jigging. I never did understand how our bodies, plump even then, could be so still and yet the curls dance as fast as our feet. But you could hear a pin drop when we began to dance, the 4 of us in a row. Then Brenda emigrated to Canada, and after that Cat and Morag and me gave up the dancing. It just wasn't the same. Pretty soon after, Morag settled down with Shugi, who's been her sweetheart since the primary school playground, and then Cat married Ian after a lightning courtship. And I met Brian, and he sailed off on a GSI ship. I hope that Morag's man won't be with her today. Shugi thinks all women should be happy to stay at home cooking, and I don't need him bringing my mood down in these precious first hours of the summer holidays. Heading straight into the kitchen, I hug Morag. Yummy. I smell brandy snaps. I tell her, just like I didn't know about the treat waiting for me the second I saw her car. Mari. She scolds fondly, you'll get flour from my apron all over your good school dress. You're always so careless of your work clothes. Well, I've plenty of other good clothes, and all summer to wash them. I grin at her. Morag is quick to excuse her man's absence. Shugi's working late. I told him I wanted him to come celebrate the start of the school holidays with us, but you know what men are. A great cook and a fond sister, are Morag, but tactful? Not so much. The four of us sit down at the kitchen table to eat, and Neil is full of everything he's been doing with his mates. Saturday morning and the first day of the holidays, two great reasons for a lion. But golden sunshine is pouring through my bedroom window, and we so seldom see the sun that I can't bring myself to waste the day. Besides, I've promised to go shopping with my friend Liana, who runs the bakery across the road from Kelvin Grove Park, and has a rare Saturday off. A shame to waste a golden day like this in the Sauchiehall Street shops, but Liana needs cheering up. We'll get some lunch in Dino's Cafe. Cappuccino and Tarly ice cream will be the very thing for her, if she hasn't started dieting again. Ever since she found out last winter that her soon-to-be ex-husband Donald was cheating on her, Liana has been dieting whenever she isn't binging on cream cakes and Bar's Iron Brew. I'm so fat. She moans. Liana is not fat. She's dark and intense, very good-looking in a way that screams, catch me if you can, for all that she's so prim and proper. But sometimes she squeezes herself into hot pants and hates how she looks in them. Nobody over 18 can look good in hot pants. You wouldn't catch me dead wearing them. I'm happy Liana has finally decided to have a makeover, but when I realized she'd chosen the first day of the summer hols I could have killed her. Never mind. Liana and me have been pals since our first day at primary school together. Anything for a pal, right? I throw back the covers. After a marathon shopping spree, we're eating spaghetti in one of the booths in Dino's. Liana is telling me a long story about tax, which I can't understand. She's being taxed as a business owner, even although it's been months since she bowed out of the camping gear business which she and Donald had been running together when she found out about him carrying on behind her back. I know from painful experience that Liana isn't going to be satisfied with me nodding and exclaiming that's awful. She wants me to understand all the ins and outs of her tale of woe, and she'll get really annoyed if I don't. So I try. I thought that you did all the accounts for the business, Liana. That's right, Mari. I did all the accounts when I was there. But I'm not there now, am I? I nod, hoping that will come across as sympathetic. In heaven's name, Mari, at least try to understand, can't you? My charmer of an ex-husband, well, he'll be my ex soon, and it can't be soon enough. That nitwit Donald messed up the accounting records after I left, and he took all the money I'd put into a savings account for the taxes and spent it on some stupid souped-up car. Now I'm interested. How can a car cost a whole year's worth of a thriving business's taxes? But I know better than to ask, because Liana would eat me alive. That's awful. I really should have known better than to say that. When she comes back down from orbit, Liana tells me in baby words what happened. Donald has told the income tax people that she emptied the business bank account when she left him, and that he can't make sense of the mess she'd left the accounts in. And they believe him. I can help her with that. Do you have any name for the inspector who's handling the case? Yes, it's a Mr. Charlie Stout. Okay. What you do is, you make an appointment to see him, and you take your bank statements with you, and the last bank statements you have for the company's bank accounts, and you explain. Do you really think that will work? Liana looks doubtful, but that's an improvement on her looking furious. Of course it will. Well, how was I to know what would happen? To my amazement, the sunshine lasts for 3 whole weeks. I take Neil to the park, referee scratch football games, and come the first rainy day I'm sitting with Catriona in the tea shop at the art gallery chatting, while Neil tears around all over the museum. He's got to let off steam, explains his fond mum. I certainly don't disagree. Besides, it's the Chinese exhibits that he's tearing around, We can see him through the glassed-in gallery, or Kat would be down there with him. Since Ian's death she never lets him out of her sight if she can possibly help it, and Neil is a bright wee laddie, so he'll be learning something about China without even knowing that he's doing it. If Brian and I ever have a bairn, I hope the wee one will be as clever as Neil. I got a letter from Brian this morning, sent from Hong Kong. He'll be home in another few days, and he wants to take me to dinner at Regano's his first night back. I'm not getting any younger, and so I'm hoping that at last Brian is thinking of wedding bells. Leanna took my advice. She went to see Charlie Stout at the Kilmarnock tax office. I did offer to go along with her, but she didn't want me. When she's telling me about their interview afterwards, Leanna's incandescent with rage. She says he had the nerve to try to flirt with her. Perhaps. I murmur soothingly, he was just trying to set you at ease. Perhaps he's a little socially awkward. Leanna sniffs, pitying my naivety. No, he was flirting, well, trying to, the scunner. I sigh. I hope she was less scathing when she was in his office. Men can get very upset when Leanna rejects them, and he is her tax inspector.